The third pirate ship screamed toward the Tiguk Pioneer at full acceleration. On its bridge, the pilot had made a decision born of desperation and rage. If they could not defeat these unknown aliens with weapons, they would destroy them with mass and momentum. It was a suicide run, but the pilot did not care. Better to die in battle than live with the shame of fleeing from prey. On the human ship's bridge, alarm systems detected the incoming threat immediately. Red lights flashed across Bora's tactical display. "Captain, the third vessel is on a collision course." Impact in 30 seconds, the aliens gasped in horror. Kivla gripped a railing so hard her knuckles turned white beneath her translucent skin. "He's going to ram us," she whispered. "We're all going to die." Captain Deho remained calm. "Point defense systems, engage the target." Lieutenant Hayrin, standing at the security station, watched her screens with professional interest. The point defense turrets were designed to stop exactly this kind of threat. Small, fast-moving weapons that could track and destroy incoming missiles. Debris, or in this case, a ship desperate enough to become a missile itself. The turrets rotated smoothly, their targeting computers calculating trajectory, speed, and weak points in microseconds. Then they fired. The point defense guns were smaller than the railgun, but they fired much faster. Streams of projectiles tore through space, each one a small piece of dense metal moving at incredible velocity. They hit the pirate ship's bow, punching through the shields that were already weakened from the earlier battle. The effect was devastating. The pirate ship's nose crumpled under the barrage. Explosions rippled along its hull as internal systems failed. The vessel began to break apart, pieces of it spinning off into space. Within 5 seconds, what had been a threatening warship was nothing but scattered debris. Total engagement time from the start of the battle, 43 seconds. The bridge was silent. The 2 surviving pirate ships did not wait to see if the humans would fire again. They engaged their FTL drives and vanished, fleeing into deep space. Captain Deho turned to his crew. "Damage report." Bora checked her screens. "No damage to report, sir. Shields are at 98%. All systems nominal. Casualties?" "None, sir," Deho nodded. "Stand down from combat alert. Return to normal operations." He turned to the clustered aliens. "Is everyone all right?" The aliens were not all right. They stared at the view screen where the battle had taken place, where debris still floated in the void. Their large eyes were wider than ever, and several of them were shaking. Kivla took a step forward on trembling legs. "You destroyed them." Her voice was barely audible. "You just destroyed them." "They didn't give us much choice," Deho said. "They tried to kill us." "But they were Skrell," Terran said, his voice filled with confusion. "The Skrell cannot be defeated. Everyone knows this. They are the apex predators of the galaxy. They have never lost a battle. They just lost one," Taeyang said matter-of-factly, already running diagnostics on the weapon systems to make sure everything was functioning properly. Dr. Hyun-soo was watching the aliens carefully. Their reaction was more than just shock. It was like they had witnessed something that fundamentally broke their understanding of reality. "Kivla," he said gently, "may I see your medical database? I want to understand your biology better." Kivla seemed to shake herself out of her daze. Yes, of course." She pulled out a small device and transferred data to the human computers. Dr. Hyun-soo began reviewing the information on his tablet. What he found was fascinating and deeply saddening. The Velnari, as Kivla's species was called, had evolved on a world that was paradise by any measure. Low gravity, stable climate, no tectonic activity, no extreme weather, and most importantly, no predators. Their planet had never developed aggressive species. Evolution there had favored cooperation and efficiency, rather than strength and survival. The Velnari had never had to fight for their lives. They had never had to develop thick skin or strong bones or redundant organs. They were beautiful and graceful, but they were fragile. Dr. Hyun-soo pulled up comparison data on human biology. The contrast was shocking. Humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. Predators, diseases, weather that could freeze or burn, earthquakes and volcanoes. Even the gravity was more than 3 times what the Velnari experienced. Human bodies reflected that harsh evolution. Dense bones that could withstand tremendous force, muscles capable of explosive strength, skin tough enough to resist thorns and rocks, internal organs protected by rib cages, the ability to heal from wounds that would be fatal to most galactic species, and perhaps most importantly, the instinct to fight back when threatened. Tren approached Dr. Hyunsu cautiously.
May I see?
The alien physician asked. Dr. Hyunsu showed him the comparison data. Tren studied it for a long time, his expression shifting from curiosity to disbelief, to something that might have been horror. Your bones, Tren said slowly. They are 5 times as dense as ours. Your muscles can generate force that would tear our bodies apart. You have redundant organs. If your heart stops, you have minutes to survive. If my heart stops, I have seconds. We have to be tough, Dr. Hyunsu explained. Our world demands it. Tren pulled up another screen. This data shows your history, your wars, your conflicts. You have been fighting your own species for thousands of years. He looked at Dr. Hyunsu with incomprehension. How are you still alive? How did you not destroy yourselves? We almost did, Dr. Hyunsu admitted. Many times. But we learned. We got better. We chose to cooperate instead of compete. But we never forgot how to fight when we needed to. Kivla was looking at images of Earth that Dr. Hyunsu had shared. Pictures of hurricanes and tornadoes, volcanoes spewing lava, tsunamis crashing against shores, earthquakes splitting the ground, and animals. So many animals with teeth and claws and venom. This is where you come from, she said. It was not a question. Yes, Captain Deho confirmed. How do you survive there? She asked. How does anything survive there? You adapt, Deho said. You become strong. You learn to work together. You build shelters and develop technology. You survive because the alternative is extinction. Pellis, the young navigator who Jiwan had treated earlier, spoke up for the first time. The Class 12 Deathworld classification. We thought it meant nothing could live there. We were wrong. It means only the strongest can live there. Not just strong, Jiwan corrected gently. Smart, adaptable, stubborn. We survived because we refused to give up. Lieutenant Heirin had been listening quietly. You said the Skrell come from a 0.6 gravity world. That they're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Kivla nodded. Yes, they are feared everywhere. No one can stand against them. Heirin looked at her console where Earth's data was still displayed. Earth is 0.98 gravity. Nearly twice what the Skrell evolved in. She looked at the aliens. Do you understand what that means? By your standards, every human is stronger and tougher than the most dangerous species you've ever encountered. The aliens absorbed this information in silence. The implications were enormous. Humanity was not just another species. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. Deathworlders who had not only survived their harsh planet but had thrived, developed culture and art and science, and reached for the stars. Tai Yang had been working on analyzing the pirate ship's remains. Captain, I've got something interesting here. The weapons those pirates were using. They're primitive. Centuries behind our technology. What do you mean? Deho asked. Their missiles had no guidance systems. Their energy weapons were inefficient. Their shields were basically just reinforced hulls. They were using brute force instead of smart engineering. Tai Yang looked at the aliens. Is this the best technology the galaxy has? Kivla looked almost ashamed. We have had peace for thousands of years. We have not needed weapons. The Skrell developed theirs through conflict with other species, but even they stopped advancing. Why improve weapons when the ones you have are already unstoppable? Because someone stronger might come along, Bora said quietly. The words hung in the air. Someone stronger had come along. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, and nothing would be the same again. Engineer Tai Yang finished his repairs on the Serenity Dawn remotely, using drones to complete the work. The alien ship was spaceworthy again, capable of limping to the nearest station. But Kivla approached Captain Deho with a request. We must take you to the Galactic Community Station. You must meet the Council. They need to know about your species, is that wise? Deho asked. We seem to frighten your people. Kivla touched her chest, and what the humans had learned was a gesture of sincerity. You frighten us, yes. But you also saved us when you had no reason to. You protected us from pirates who have terrorized the galaxy for generations. The Council must know that Deathworlders can be more than just monsters from nightmares. Captain Deho looked at his crew. They had come out here to explore, to find new life. They had found it, but not in the way they expected. Now they had a choice. Return home and report their findings or take the next step into the unknown. How far to this station? He asked. 3 days at FTL speed, Kivla replied. Deho smiled. Then we'd better get started. We have a galaxy to meet. The alarm sound was soft and musical. Nothing like the harsh klaxons on human ships, but the panic it caused among the aliens was immediate and unmistakable. Kivla rushed to a wall panel, her delicate fingers moving across it quickly. Other aliens were running through the corridors, their graceful movements now clumsy with fear. "What's happening?" Captain Deho asked urgently. Kivla's face had lost what little color it had. "Ships approaching. 3 vessels. Moving fast." She looked at Daiho with pure terror in her large eyes. Skrill pirates. Back on the bridge of the Tayaguk Pioneer, Lieutenant Bora was already tracking the incoming vessels. "Captain, 3 ships just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. They're heading straight for us. Estimated arrival in 20 minutes. Deho tapped his communicator. "Bora, bring the ship to combat readiness. All defensive systems online." There was a pause. "Sir, are you sure? Maybe we can negotiate with them." "Just do it, Lieutenant." On the alien ship, the crew of the Serenity Dawn had gathered in the main corridor. They were all looking at Kivla, waiting for her to tell them what to do. The captain of the alien vessel seemed paralyzed, unable to make a decision. "What do your people usually do when pirates attack?" Dr. Hyun-soo asked gently. Kivla's voice was barely a whisper. "We surrender. We give them what they want. Sometimes they let us live. Sometimes," Taeyang said, his voice sharp. "What happens the other times?" Turan, the physician, answered. "They take the ship. They take everything. They take us." The alien's translator struggled with the next word, finally settling on slaves. The human crew members looked at each other. This was not just piracy. This was something darker. "Have you ever fought back?" Deho asked. The aliens looked confused by the question. Kivla gestured at her own body, so thin and delicate. "How? We are not fighters. We have no weapons. The Skrell are strong and brutal. No one can stand against them." "No one has tried," Deho said quietly. "Many have tried," Kivla corrected. "They all died. The Skrell come from a heavier world than ours. They are faster, stronger. They are predators. We are not." Deho made a decision. "Come with us to the Teguk Pioneer. All of you. You'll be safer there." Kivla hesitated. "Your ship. The gravity. We can adjust it in certain sections. We'll make it comfortable for you." The aliens discussed among themselves in their musical language. Finally, Kivla agreed. They had no other choice. 17 injured crew members and 23 healthy ones filed through the airlock into the human ship. Each alien looked around the Teguk Pioneer with visible fear. Everything here was harder, sharper, built for a species that needed strength where they relied on grace. On the bridge, the aliens clustered together in one corner, trying to stay out of the way. The artificial gravity had been lowered to 0.4, a compromise that left the humans feeling slightly light, but kept the aliens from being crushed by forces their bodies were never designed to handle. Lieutenant Bora was at her station, tracking the approaching ships. Next to her stood Lieutenant Hai Rin from security, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. She had brought 3 other security officers with her, all wearing tactical gear and carrying weapons. When the aliens saw the weapons, several of them made sounds of distress. Turan pointed at the rifles with a trembling hand. "What are those?" "Defensive weapons," Hayrin explained. "In case the pirates try to board our ship." "You would fight them?" Turan asked, amazed and horrified in equal measure. "You would kill?" Hayrin looked at the alien with an expression that was hard to read. "If they threaten my crew?" "Yes." The concept seemed to be almost incomprehensible to the aliens. They had no framework for understanding violence as defense, for the idea that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent was to stop those who would harm them. The pirate ships appeared on the main view screen. They were ugly vessels, all harsh angles and scarred hulls. They looked like they had been cobbled together from a dozen different ships, held together more by will than engineering. A communication channel opened without permission, and a face appeared on the screen. The Skrell pirate leader was reptilian, with scaled skin and sharp teeth. His eyes were cold and calculating. To the aliens, he must have looked like a monster from their nightmares. Even Deho had to admit the creature looked dangerous. The pirate spoke in a growling language. The translation came through. "Small ships. You surrender cargo and crew. You live, you resist, you die. Choose now." It was clearly a speech he had given many times before. There was boredom in his voice, the tone of someone going through familiar motions. Captain Deho stood up from his chair and walked closer to the view screen. "This is Captain Deho of the research vessel Teguk Pioneer. We have nothing to surrender. I suggest you leave this system immediately." The pirate stared at him, then broke into a laugh that sounded like grinding rocks. "Unknown species. Unknown ship. You think you frighten me? I have raided 1,000 vessels. I have defeated 20 species. Who are you to give me orders?" "I'm the captain of this ship," Deho said calmly, "and I'm telling you to leave. This is your only warning." The pirate's expression changed from amusement to anger. "You dare threaten me? I will board your ship. I will take everything you have. I will sell your crew to the mines, and I will make you watch before I kill you." The communication cut off. The 3 pirate vessels began to accelerate, moving into attack formation. Behind Deho, the aliens were trembling with fear. Kivla approached slowly. "Captain, please. We must surrender. You don't understand. The Skrell cannot be beaten. They will destroy your ship. They will kill everyone." Deho looked at her kindly. "Kivla, I need you to trust me. Take your crew to the back of the bridge. Hold on to something solid." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "What humans do when someone threatens our people," he replied. He turned to Bora. "Lieutenant, you have weapons free. Target their engines first." "I want to give them a chance to run." Bora's fingers moved across her console. "Aye, Captain." Railguns charging. Missiles armed. Point defense systems online. The aliens watched in confusion. They did not understand what any of those words meant. Their ships had no weapons. The idea of a research vessel carrying enough firepower to fight off pirates was outside their experience. Tae Yang was at the engineering station, making sure all power systems were at full capacity. Dr. Hyunsu stood with the aliens trying to keep them calm. Ji-won had her medical kit ready, expecting casualties. The pirate ships were close now, entering weapons range. They fired first, launching what looked like primitive missiles and energy bolts. The attacks that had defeated countless other species, that had struck fear into the hearts of the galactic community. The Teguk Pioneer's point defense systems came alive. Automated turrets tracked and destroyed the incoming missiles before they could get close. Energy shields absorbed the energy bolts without even flickering. On the pirate lead ship, alarms started blaring. Their sensors were suddenly screaming warnings they had never seen before. The small human ship was lighting up their screens like a military vessel, its power output impossible for something so small. "Return fire," Deho ordered. Bora pressed a single button. The railgun fired. It was a magnetic weapon that accelerated a solid metal slug to a fraction of the speed of light. The slug hit the first pirate ship's shield and passed through it like it was not even there. The ship's engine exploded in a burst of white light. The pirates' confident attack formation broke apart immediately. They scattered, trying to understand what had just happened. "Target the second ship," Deho said. 2 missiles launched from the Teguk Pioneer. They were not like the primitive weapons the pirates had used. These were smart missiles, able to track and adjust their course. The pirate ship tried to evade, but the missiles followed every turn. Both struck home, destroying the ship's weapons and crippling its shields. On the bridge, the aliens watched in complete shock. The invincible pirates, the terror of the galaxy, were being defeated in seconds. The pirate leader's face appeared on screen again. The arrogance was gone, replaced by fear. "What are you?" he demanded. "We're humans," Deho said simply. "And we're from Earth. Now leave before I stop being nice." The pirate leader's eyes grew wide. He shouted orders in his own language, and his damaged ship began to turn away. But the third pirate ship, apparently unwilling to accept defeat, tried one last desperate attack. It accelerated directly at the Teguk Pioneer, attempting to ram them. The journey to the Galactic Community Station took 3 days through faster-than-light space. During that time, 2 very different species learned to coexist in close quarters. The Teguk Pioneer and the Serenity Dawn traveled in formation, maintaining constant communication. The aliens gradually became less afraid of the humans, though they never completely lost their wariness. How could they? Every interaction reminded them of the vast gulf between their species. When Taiyang casually lifted a crate that 4 Velnari struggled with, they flinched. When Ji-won treated a Velnari who had bumped into a wall and gotten what they considered a serious injury, they watched in amazement as she used nothing but ice and a mild painkiller to treat what humans would call a minor bruise. Captain Deho spent hours talking with Kivla, learning about the galactic community. It was a civilization that had existed for over 50,000 years. 127 species living together in harmony, sharing knowledge and resources. They had no central government, just a council where representatives met to discuss issues and reach consensus. Conflicts were resolved through dialogue and compromise, never violence. It sounds like paradise, Dr. Hyunsu said when Kivla described their society. It is, Kivla agreed. We have achieved everything your species dreams of. Peace, prosperity, understanding between different people. But you have no way to defend yourselves, Lieutenant Bora observed. The Skrell have been raiding your ships for how long? Kivla's expression grew sad. Generations. We have tried everything. We appealed to their better nature. We offered them membership in the community. We gave them resources hoping they would stop. Nothing worked, because they had no reason to stop, Lieutenant Hayron said. You rewarded their aggression. You taught them that violence works. The concept clearly troubled Kivla. What else could we do? Fight them? We are not warriors. We cannot become monsters to defeat monsters. You don't have to become monsters, Captain Deho said quietly. You just have to be willing to say no, to defend what's yours. That's not monstrous. That's survival. On the third day they arrived at the station. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of anything humanity had ever built in space. The structure was beautiful, all flowing curves and graceful architecture. Hundreds of ships were docked there, representing dozens of different species. Gardens grew inside transparent sections visible from space. The whole thing looked more like a work of art than a space station. The Teguk Pioneer received docking instructions, and as they approached, something unexpected happened. Ships began moving away from them, not fleeing exactly, but giving them a very wide berth. Word of what had happened with the Skrell pirates had apparently spread. When Captain Deho and his senior crew disembarked, they found themselves walking through corridors filled with aliens of every description. Some were tall, some short. Some had fur, some had scales, some had skin like the Velnari, but they all had one thing in common. When they saw the humans, they moved away. The humans were escorted by Kivla and her crew to the council chambers. The room was vast and circular, with seating for hundreds of representatives. As the humans entered, a hush fell over the gathered aliens. Every eye turned to watch them. The council leader was a being that looked like it was made of living crystal, its body refracting light into rainbow patterns. It spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes, and the translation came through their devices. Welcome to the Galactic Community Station. I'm Council Leader Mirazel. We have heard much about your species in the past few days. Captain Deho stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Thank you for receiving us. I am Captain Deho of the human research vessel Teguk Pioneer. We come in peace. A ripple of sound went through the council. The crystalline being's light patterns shifted in a way that might have indicated surprise. Peace. An interesting word from a species that destroyed 3 Skrell vessels in under a minute. We destroyed 2 vessels, Deho corrected. We disabled one and it fled. And we only fought because they attacked us and threatened the Velnari. Kivla stood up from her seat. Council leader, I must speak. The humans saved us. Our ship was crippled. We were helpless. They heard our distress call and came to help us even though they had never met us before. They repaired our ship. They treated our injured. And when the Skrell came, they protected us. Another council member spoke up, a being covered in soft feathers. They protected you through violence. Through murder. Is this the kind of species we want in our community? Dr. Hyunsu stepped forward. May I speak? Council Leader Mirazel gestured for him to continue. I understand your concern about violence, Dr. Hyunsu said carefully. Your civilization has existed in peace for thousands of years. That is remarkable and admirable. But I must ask, is it truly peace if you live in fear? The Skrell have been raiding your ships for generations. How many of your people have been killed or enslaved? How many ships have been lost? The council chamber grew very quiet. Dr. Hyunsu continued. You say we committed violence. That's true. But we did not seek it out. We did not attack first. We defended ourselves and our friends. There is a difference between aggression and defense. The Skrell were the aggressors. We simply refused to be victims. Teren stood up from where he sat with the Velnari delegation. I have studied human biology in the past 3 days. I have learned about their world, their history. What I discovered both horrifies and amazes me. The physician pulled up a holographic display showing Earth. The council members watched as images played showing the harsh reality of humanity's homeworld. The humans call their planet Earth. By our classification, it is a Class 12 death world. Nothing that extreme should be able to support intelligent life. Yet the humans not only survived there, they prospered. More images appeared. Human cities, human art, human achievements in science and engineering. They survived by becoming strong, yes, but also by becoming smart, by learning to work together, by developing tools and technology, and perhaps most importantly, by developing empathy even in a world that showed them none. Tren looked directly at the council. When I was injured during the incident that disabled our ship, I thought I was dying. The pain was unbearable. Then a human treated me. She used what she called a basic first aid kit. She spent less than a minute on my injuries. To her, what I suffered was barely worth noticing. Yet she treated me with such gentleness, such care. She knew I was fragile compared to her, and she adjusted herself to help me. The physician's voice grew stronger. This is what Deathworlders are. They are strong enough to destroy, but they choose to protect. They are hard enough to fight, but they prefer to heal. They come from a world that tried to kill them every day, yet they still answered our distress call and risked their lives to save us. A long silence followed. Then a council member that resembled a floating jellyfish spoke. But what happens when we disagree with them? What happens when their interests conflict with ours? Will they use their strength to take what they want? Captain Deho had been standing quietly, but now he spoke. May I tell you about our history? Council leader Mirazel nodded. Thousands of years ago, humans did exactly what you fear. We fought each other. We took what we wanted by force. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. Our history is filled with wars and conflicts that killed millions. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But we learned, Deho continued, we learned that violence only creates more violence. We learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak, not exploit them. We learned that our survival depends on cooperation, not conquest. It took us a long time to learn these lessons, and we still make mistakes. But we learned them through hard experience in a way you never had to. He looked around at the gathered aliens. You have peace because your worlds were gentle. We have peace because we fought for it. Both are valid. Both have value. But when aggression comes from outside, when someone like the Skrell threatens what you have built, you need someone who remembers how to fight but chooses not to unless absolutely necessary. Lieutenant Bora stepped forward. We don't want to conquer you. We don't want to rule you. We want to join you, to learn from you, to share what we know, and yes, if you'll let us, to protect you from those who would do you harm. Taeyang added, we can teach you to defend yourselves, not to become warriors, but to have the option. The choice to say no to those who would hurt you. Pelix, the young Velnari navigator, stood up suddenly. Several council members looked surprised that someone so young would speak. I was terrified of the humans at first, Pelix said. When I saw them, I thought they were monsters. But then the human healer treated my injuries with hands that could crush me, but touched me softer than a breeze. Then I watched them fight the Skrell, and they were terrifying. But they were terrifying in our defense. They scared away the monsters so we didn't have to be afraid anymore. Pelix looked at the humans with something that might have been admiration. Maybe we need monsters of our own. Good monsters. Monsters who fight other monsters so we can keep being ourselves. The council debated for hours. The airlock hissed as it connected with the alien vessel. Captain Deho stood with his boarding team. Engineer Taeyang carrying a toolkit. Dr. Hyunsu with his medical scanner, and Medic Ji-Wan with her emergency supplies. They wore light environmental suits just in case, but sensors showed the atmosphere on the other side was breathable for humans. Remember, Deho said quietly. Move slowly. No sudden movements. We don't want to scare them more than we already have. The inner door opened and they stepped into another world. The interior of the alien ship was beautiful. Soft bioluminescent lights glowed from the walls in gentle blues and greens. The corridors curved smoothly, with no sharp edges anywhere. Everything felt organic, peaceful, like walking through a living thing rather than a machine. The gravity was noticeably lighter, too. Deho felt like he weighed half as much as normal. An alien waited for them in the corridor. It was the same one they had seen on the screen, or at least it looked similar. Up close, Deho could see that its skin really was translucent, with faint patterns of color flowing beneath like slow-moving rivers. The alien wore something that might have been clothing, though it was so light and flowing that it was hard to tell where the fabric ended and the skin began. When the alien saw them enter, it took several steps backward. Its large eyes grew even wider, and its breathing quickened visibly. Dr. Hyun-soo raised his hand very slowly, palm out. "We come in peace," he said softly. "We're here to help." The alien watched them with obvious fear but did not run. After a moment, it gestured for them to follow. It moved with incredible grace, almost seeming to float in the low gravity. The humans tried to move carefully, but even their most controlled steps felt heavy and clumsy in comparison. They entered what must have been the ship's medical bay. Several more aliens were there, some lying on soft surfaces that resembled beds, others standing nearby. One alien was clearly in charge, wearing slightly different clothing and standing with an air of authority despite its fear. This alien spoke in its musical language, and their translation devices struggled to make sense of it. After several minutes of back and forth using gestures and the limited mathematical language they had established, basic communication became possible. The alien captain's name was Kivla. Her ship was called the Serenity Dawn. They were a peaceful research vessel, much like the Taeguk Pioneer studying the gas giant when disaster struck. A micrometeorite had hit their ship, tearing through the hull and damaging critical systems. 17 of her crew were injured. "Can we see the damage?" Tae-yang asked, gesturing to make his meaning clear. Kivla led them to the breach. Tae-yang examined it carefully, running his scanner over the torn metal. After a few minutes, he looked confused. "Captain, this damage is minimal. I can fix this in a few hours with the materials we brought. It's just a small hole." But when he looked at the aliens' faces, he saw genuine terror and despair. To them, this was a catastrophic disaster. Their ship was dying, and they were helpless to stop it. Dr. Hyun-soo was in the medical bay, examining the injured aliens with Ji-won's help. What he found shocked him. "Captain," he called out quietly, "you need to see this." Daeho joined them, looking down at an alien that Kivla identified as Pelix, a young navigator. The alien had what appeared to be a bruise on its arm and a small cut on its face. That was it. Those were the severe injuries that had their medical staff so worried. "This is what they consider critically injured?" Ji-won whispered. "This is nothing. I could treat this with a basic first aid kit." But to the aliens it was serious. Their physician, Turin, showed them their medical equipment with obvious frustration. Their technology could handle minor scrapes and illnesses, but anything more was beyond their capability. They had evolved on a world without significant dangers, so they had never needed to develop better trauma medicine. Ji-won carefully approached Pelix with a basic antiseptic and a small bandage. The young alien flinched away at first, but Ji-won moved so slowly and gently that eventually Pelix allowed her to work. She cleaned the cut with the lightest touch possible and applied the bandage. The whole process took less than a minute. Tren watched with amazement. "You can heal this?" the physician asked through the improving translation. "This isn't really an injury," Ji-won said carefully. "Not for us. This would heal on its own in a few days." Tren looked at her like she had said something impossible. Meanwhile, Kivla was showing Dr. Hyun-soo images of her homeworld. The planet was beautiful beyond description. Endless forests of strange trees grew under a soft purple sky. Oceans of crystal-clear water stretched to the horizon, their surfaces barely disturbed by the gentlest waves. The cities were works of art, structures of flowing curves and soft colors that blended perfectly with the natural world. "The gravity there," Dr. Hyun-soo said, reading the data. "It's only 0.3 compared to Earth standard. Your whole planet is like this ship." Kivla made a gesture that might have been a nod. Then she showed him something else. A star map appeared, showing hundreds of systems connected by glowing lines. "Galactic community," the translation device managed. 127 species, all peaceful. "All friends," Dr. Hyun-soo felt his breath catch. 127 alien species all living together in peace. It was everything humanity had dreamed of finding in space. But then Kivla showed him one more thing. Another map appeared, this one showing Earth's location. Next to it was text in the alien language. The translation came through slowly. "Class 12 Deathworld. Avoid. Extreme danger." "Deathworld?" Dr. Hyun-soo asked. Kivla gestured at a screen that showed images of Earth, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes erupting, predators hunting prey, the natural violence of a planet that had forged humanity through millions of years of struggle. To the aliens, Earth looked like a nightmare world where nothing should be able to survive, let alone build a civilization. No Deathworld species has achieved spaceflight, Kivla explained through the translator. They destroy themselves or remain trapped. You should not exist. Dr. Hyun-soo realized why the aliens were so afraid. It was not just that humans looked different. It was that humans came from a world that would kill any of these delicate beings in minutes. The very fact that humans existed meant they had survived things that would be considered impossible in the wider galaxy. Taeyang was working on the breach, welding it closed with equipment that the aliens watched like it was magic. Their tools were all soft, designed for gentle repairs. The human cutting torch that Taeyang used so casually looked like a weapon to them. As the hours passed, both groups began to relax slightly. The aliens saw that the humans moved carefully and spoke softly, trying hard not to frighten them. The humans saw that despite their fear, the aliens were curious and kind, doing their best to communicate and help. Kivla showed them more about the galactic community. It was a civilization built on trade, art, and knowledge. They had no weapons, no wars. When conflicts arose, they talked until they found solutions that satisfied everyone. Violence was something they had evolved beyond. But pirates? Captain Daeho asked through the translator. You said there are dangerous species? Kivla's expression changed to what might have been sadness. Skrell, she said. They come from a 0.6 gravity world. They are the most dangerous species known. They take what they want. We cannot stop them. Captain Daeho and his crew exchanged glances. A 0.6 gravity world was still lighter than Earth. If those were the most dangerous species in the galaxy, what did that make humans? The repairs were almost complete. The Serenity Dawn would be able to limp to the nearest station for proper repairs. The injured crew members had all been treated with supplies so basic that Ji-won felt embarrassed giving them out. As they prepared to return to their own ship, Kivla approached Captain Daeho. Despite her obvious fear, she placed one delicate hand over her heart and spoke carefully in her own language. The translator worked better now. Thank you. You saved us. Despite what you are, despite where you come from, you chose to help. Why? Daeho thought about how to answer. Because you needed help, he said simply. That's what we do. Kivla stared at him for a long moment, trying to understand a species that would cross space to help strangers, even when those strangers feared them. Then the alarms started blaring. The silence of deep space surrounded the research vessel Taeguk Pioneer as it drifted through the darkness between stars. Captain Daeho stood on the bridge, watching the endless void through the main viewport. He had been doing this job for 15 years now, exploring the far reaches of space that humanity had only recently learned to traverse. In all that time, they had found nothing. No aliens, no ancient ruins, not even a simple microbe on any of the hundreds of worlds they had surveyed. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Lieutenant Bora sat at her tactical station, reviewing sensor data that showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. Engineer Taeyang was below deck, probably tinkering with the engines again. Dr. Hyun-soo was in his lab, studying rock samples from the last planet they had visited. It was another ordinary day in the vast emptiness of space. Then everything changed. A sharp beep echoed across the bridge. Bora straightened in her chair, her fingers flying across her console. Captain, I'm picking up something strange, she said, her voice tense with sudden interest. It's a signal. Definitely artificial. Daeho moved to her station quickly. Where is it coming from? Bora pulled up a star chart on the main screen. A pulsing red dot appeared near a gas giant in an unexplored system about 3 light-years away. There, sir. The signal is weak but repeating. It's not in any format we recognize. The captain felt his heart beat faster. An artificial signal meant technology. Technology meant intelligence. Intelligence meant they were not alone. Can you enhance it? Bora worked her controls and suddenly the bridge speakers crackled with sound. It was not language, not exactly. It was a series of tones and pulses, mathematical and deliberate. Even without understanding it, Daeho knew what it was. A distress call. Someone out there needed help. Get Dr. Hyun-soo up here, Daeho ordered, and wake up the rest of the crew. I want everyone at their stations. Within minutes, the bridge was full of people. Dr. Hyun-soo, a thin man with glasses that constantly slipped down his nose, listened to the signal with growing excitement. "It's definitely a distress call," he confirmed. "The mathematical patterns suggest urgency. Whoever sent this is in trouble." "Could it be a trap?" Bora asked, ever the cautious one. "We don't know what's out there. This could be bait." Taeyang, who had rushed up from engineering with grease still on his hands, shook his head. "If someone wanted to trap us, why use such a weak signal? This thing is barely reaching us." "It's dying." Dr. Hyun-soo nodded eagerly. "I agree. This is genuine. We could be looking at first contact with an alien species. This is what we've been searching for." Daeho looked around at his crew. 47 people trusted him to make the right decision. Some looked excited, others worried. He thought about all the reasons they should not investigate. It could be dangerous. It could be a trap. They were just one small research vessel far from home. But then he thought about what it meant to be human. For thousands of years, humans had answered distress calls. Sailors rescued other sailors. Pilots helped downed aircraft. It was part of who they were. If there was someone out there in trouble, how could they just turn away? "Set course for the signal," Daeho said firmly. "Maximum speed. Bora, keep all sensors active. If there's any sign of danger, I want to know immediately." "Yes, sir," Bora replied, though her face showed she was not entirely happy with the decision. The Taeguk Pioneer turned in space and engaged its faster-than-light drive. The stars stretched and blurred as they jumped toward the unknown. 3 hours later, they dropped back into normal space near the gas giant. There, Taeyang pointed at the screen. A vessel floated in orbit around the massive planet. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The ship had smooth organic curves like it had been grown rather than built. Its surface shimmered with strange colors that seemed to shift in the light. But parts of it were dark and damaged. "Debris floated around it. Life signs?" Daeho asked. Bora studied her sensors. "Yes, sir. Faint, but definitely there. I'm reading multiple life forms aboard. Their life support is failing. If we don't help them soon, they'll die." Dr. Hyun-soo was practically vibrating with excitement. "This is it, Captain. This is first contact. We need to communicate with them." "How?" Bora asked. "We don't speak their language. We don't know anything about them." Taeyang grinned. "Mathematics is universal. We can try sending the same kind of patterns they used. Show them we understand." For the next hour, they worked to establish communication. They sent mathematical sequences, prime numbers, simple equations. At first there was no response. Then slowly the alien ship began to answer. Back and forth they went, building a basic vocabulary of shared understanding. Finally, they managed to establish a video connection. The main screen flickered and suddenly they were looking at an alien. The crew of the Taeguk Pioneer fell silent, staring at the first non-human intelligence humanity had ever encountered. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that looked almost translucent, showing faint colors beneath. Its eyes were large and dark, taking up much of its delicate face. It had long fingers that moved gracefully as it gestured at something off-screen. When it saw the humans, it froze completely. Then it recoiled in what looked like fear. Dr. Hyun-soo stepped forward slowly, raising his hands in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture. "We received your distress call," he said carefully, knowing the alien could not understand his words but hoping his tone would convey meaning. "We want to help." The alien stared at them for a long moment. Its mouth moved, producing sounds that their computer could not translate yet. But its expression was clear enough. It was terrified of them. Captain Daeho felt his stomach sink. They had traveled across space to answer a distress call, to save lives, to make peaceful first contact. And somehow, just by appearing on a screen, they had frightened this being nearly to death. What had they done wrong? What did this alien see when it looked at them that caused such fear? The alien on the screen turned and seemed to be talking to others out of view. There was urgent discussion in their musical, incomprehensible language. Finally, the alien turned back to face the camera. It placed one hand over what might have been its heart and made a gesture that could have meant almost anything. But then it did something that transcended language. It pointed at its damaged ship. Then it pointed at the humans. Then it pressed its hands together in what looked unmistakably like a plea for help. Despite its fear, it was still asking them to save its crew. Captain Daeho nodded slowly and returned the gesture, pressing his own hands together. "We will help you," he said. "I promise." The alien did not understand the words, but perhaps it understood the intent. It nodded back just once before the screen went dark again. Deho turned to his crew. "Prepare a boarding team. We're going over there."